Today is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. Can I have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? The Board of Education will be moving to executive session. We will convene for the purpose of collective negotiations under the Taylor Law, medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or persons or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I ask for a motion to move to executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? The board will reconvene at approximately 7 p.m. Good evening and welcome back to our Board of Education meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025, 9/16/25, a perfect square day. Can everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So tonight, first thing we have is our agenda. Can I ask for a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. It's using my teacher voice. Do we have anyone here for non-agenda items to talk about? The consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? And that brings us to the hearing of the public on agenda items. Do we have anyone here to speak on agenda items?
We do not.
Thank you. Okay, now comes the fun part. We have some presentations. The first presentation we have is on Into Reading, our status on that, and our MTSS 2025 overview.
Thank you, President Silverman. As Ms. Scollins and Ms. Moreno prepare to dive into their presentation, since this is our first presentation on a specific topic related to the instruction of our students, I want to just remind the public and the board that we are doing the work of the board in public, and one of those components of the work of the board is to become knowledgeable on the student experience. This is one of the first presentations to help the board engage in that topic. I didn't know we were doing math facts today.
We have another one?
Because now I can throw down the gauntlet, and every day we can have a history or a trivia fact of the day. But I'm pleased to turn it over to
Math is the only subject that counts.
Well, to that end, we will start off our conversation about literacy I'll turn it over to Ms. Lauren Scollins, who will take us through a reflection after 1 year of implementing the Into Reading program at our elementary level. So Ms. Scollins, thank you for joining us and for your presentation.
Thank you. So a lot of this information was gathered at the end of last school year, and I want to start off with our next slide, recognizing our literacy coach who cannot be here tonight, Ms. Janine Rizzoli, who has been working closely with me to help analyze a lot of this data, as well as implement this with our staff. We do have here tonight Ms. Danielle Cohen, who I would like to take a moment to recognize. Feel free to come up to the podium, Danielle. Danielle was a part of the pilot team for Into Reading in its infancy, and over the summer was selected as a teacher contributor for HMH Into Reading. One of her resources, a homework guide aligned with the new version 3 of the program, was published on their Teacher's Corner. And I'm on that Facebook page learning all about the program, and I see Danielle's name popping up there a lot. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that experience and what you've done.
Sure. So I reached out to them because I felt like I wanted to be more involved in this program to kind of give our kids a better experience. And they extended to be a teacher contributor for them, and I accepted. And just, it's been a really great experience. I get to create things and kind of bounce ideas off of other teachers that are around the nation, and create materials for not only our students, but students all over the United States. So it's been a really great experience.
Thank you. I'm going to encourage Danielle to stand up
I'm
here.
sorry, I
and
just want to applaud that. That is
she's
amazing.
amazing and such a resource for our staff. So she's going to join us at the podium for the presentation and jump in as we talk about some of the changes and things that we have been working on. So as we know, Interreading looks like a structured literacy program. We have a vocabulary component, response to literature. It involves our small group work, writing instruction, grammar, all of those stations and centers that we like to see, and was selected after a year-long pilot. After our year, the teacher feedback, we asked them to evaluate the alignment with standards, appropriateness for students on a Likert scale. So you'll see the areas we asked them about, as well as the average rating. Curriculum alignment being the highest rated. One of the things that I'm excited about with this work is our teachers loved the way the curriculum was connected to the learning standards, and a lot of our teachers engaged in summer curriculum writing, taking their work from the HMH Interreading to connect it with science and social studies and hopefully math, so that there was a lot of that interdisciplinary experience for students to see connections and for students to kind of spiral that information. Some of our reflections, and you can see these are actual quotes from our teachers. Overall, they really did feel like the text sparked discussion, and that it was a good program that they felt that was interactive and allowed for students to really engage in their learning and to be a part of the learning process. Danielle, feel free to jump in anytime here. The next piece is a little bit of problem solving along the way. So last year was a learning year. I will say this year is also a learning year. Some of the feedback that we've received about pacing, managing the volume of the materials, as well as the writing program. That was a big component that teachers raised concerns about, and the actual physical materials. So,
Lauren, I'm going to jump
Yep.
in there for you. So as we were going through the program, there is a lot of resources that are available to us, and when first presented with it, it was very much overwhelming. But working with HMH, I kind of have a better understanding and relaying this information that it shouldn't be really seen as like a buffet where you want to take it all and just use it, but more like a menu. So you're going to pick and choose your items that you want to use, and it becomes less overwhelming once you do that. So once we kind of figured out how to use those materials or like what was needed, then it became less overwhelming for a lot of us. And then the writing program, when we first started with it, our mentor text didn't really match the writing at all. We felt like it was very disconnected, and they heard us. So they revamped the whole writing program. So we're kind of in the process now of just seeing how this is playing out, where the mentor text is really brought in now, linked to their grammar, linked to like quotes for their, for example, we're doing personal narrative, and like quotes from the book are being pulled in. So it doesn't seem like two separate entities anymore. It seems very cohesive and joined together. So we'll see what V3 has prepared for us.
to that area for growth, as we transitioned to this version 3, there have been some hiccups in the transition. We are not alone. That's one of the things I've learned on the Facebook page, that schools across the country also are exhibiting similar issues. We have had some issues with delivery of materials, as well as the online component. Danielle sent a lot of emails walking teachers through and checking today, walking classroom to classroom to make sure that our teachers knew what to do. Her and Nikki, our technology coach, have been tag teaming to get to every building. So that's been a huge help.
Yeah, so as of right now, the last teacher I got to, we are all good with Waggle. So
So that is an area that we're still learning and growing, but again, for year one, and then as we transition to the V3, we have noticed that they have heard some of the feedback in areas that needed to grow, so that's an exciting opportunity. And then just a couple of takeaways and next steps. We are at V3 this year. We are using the universal benchmark in HMH. So HMH does come with benchmarking materials, and so we are using that with Fidelity this year in order to gather that baseline data about our students and to see progress. So that is something that we will continue to dig deeper in now that everyone is implementing that, and be able to provide some more growth measure by the end of this school year. We're also continuing with our professional learning and support, both through the company and then through our variety, our literacy coaches and all of our teachers who are working on this. This year we've also purchased the English language learner support modules, so to support our ELs in our classes. And then again, this year with the HMH benchmark and real digging deeply into year two, we'll be able to do a more comprehensive data review. Any questions?
I don't have a question. Speaking of data, because historically I don't feel like we've always done a very good job at measuring and maintaining, so this is just an idea for the future. It would be really neat to involve our high school teachers in terms of, I guess, all subjects, honestly, because literacy carries through into every nook and cranny. But I think it'd be really neat to pay attention somehow, some way, because I know teachers change over the years, but to look at the students currently in the high school and their literacy skills, and then, in 5 years and in 10 years, keep track of, did our investment pay off? Because I think the high school teachers would be a great piece of this puzzle in measuring how we can continuously improve.
Were you listening to us? Because we were just, so one of the goals that I have this year is to really have more vertically aligned conversations, so that we, everyone will engage K through 12 to be able to see, what is today we had our grade level leaders meeting and each of the principals shared an article about differentiation, the same article, K-12, so that we're all starting to have the same language around these key skills so that we can have those conversations. What do you see at a high school graduate, right? New York Inspires has our high school graduate, the New York State profile of a graduate. That starts in kindergarten. Right. So what does that look like? And as we continue on this interreading path, we need to make sure that we are supporting our learners all the way through so that by the time this cohort gets to the high school, they're going to have a very different level of skill, hopefully.
Yep. I'll be here for it.
Yeah.
You said that you're going to use the benchmark from them.
Yes.
Is that in addition to the iReady?
So yes, so it's one of the elements we're using. We are not going to be using F&P this year.
Okay.
We're going to be using the HMH benchmark because it is with our program and it's much more aligned to the elements of science of reading. So that will look a little different. Our literacy and math coaches are putting together one-page documents for families about these benchmarks and the different types of tests and level of materials that we're using for students, that we can share that with families.
And then with both of those, most of it, we're hoping that they always align, when you get the results from one, that they match another. Do you guys have PD and training for teachers as to what to look for? If one, because it could be a bad testing day, right? Or it could be that one's picking up something. Is everybody ready and prepared for that conversation?
It's like you set us up for the next conversation. Look at this. So, yes, and Chris and I are going to talk about MTSS, which is our multi-tiered systems of support, and the types of data that we're going to be looking at. Before we get started on that, I'll ask for any other questions, and I want to give Danielle another round of applause and thank her very much.
We have a question here.
I love that the feedback it went better than expected. That was one of the teachers, their feedback. I wanted to ask if there was, what are we doing about those other feedback that we got in regards to, the measuring of the progress that was lower scoring on their feedback? Are we making tweaks there to kind of, make sure that we can get it to where we want it to be?
Definitely, and I think we're going to be using our some of our early release time this year to do some more targeted PD. Last year, our literacy coaches met with each of the grade levels to work on specific areas, and so that will continue again this year. We also are working with HMH to ensure they have a program called Coachly to give us some PD targeted for our literacy coaches who can then turnkey that. So that'll be a target area.
And what's nice also about HMH is they have, it's called Teacher's Corner, and they have free PD all the time.
Oh, wonderful. Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I can just weigh in on this, I really want to say I appreciate the leadership under Lauren's guidance and all of our administrators and our teacher leaders that shows the amount of teacher voice in this process. And that's key to not only being responsive to our teachers and the professionals that they are, but also we know that when you have teacher voice led under a framework of how to operate, you tend to see that cohesion, that alignment occurs quicker, and that is the key to any program that you seek to roll out, because you can have whatever program you want, but if it's not done in a cohesive manner, led by caring professionals who know how to engage students, nothing is going to be successful in terms of an outcome that you're going to get. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Danielle.
All right, so we're going to talk about our MTSS process tonight, and you go to the next slide. This graphic is probably my favorite of the presentation for a number of reasons. But first of all, what is MTSS and why is it important? So at its most basic form, we are identifying and supporting all student needs, and doing that through frequent assessment and targeted instruction. So the reason I like this graphic is the circular motion, right? And because MTSS should not really be a start and stop, it should be a continuous process. Students will get different supports as needed throughout the process, but it should always be going on, and it should be driving most of what we do, if not all of what we do in a district.
So one of the things on that previous slide that talks about, that kind of goes into this slide, is that MTSS is not a curriculum. MTSS is not just AIS. It is multi-layered and multi-leveled based on the specific needs of a student. So whether our students are performing below grade level or above grade level, they engage in the MTSS process, and all of our students are receiving services at a tier 1 level within the classroom, preventative and proactive, in order for them to be able to move forward. And then the goal of the MTSS team is to take our students who are identified as needing additional support or who are going above and beyond into the tier 2 and tier 3 models.
So this year, some changes or revisions to our MTSS plan and policies. We're putting an emphasis on weekly team meetings with teacher teams and grade level teams to have those discussions about students who maybe have certain needs or supports that they want to discuss at those levels. Having them led and facilitated by building administration. That then brings to our bi-weekly MTSS meetings, where there will be discussions on possible supports needed, different plans for specific students, and how we can support them and make them as successful as possible. Mrs. Scollins and I will be present at hopefully the vast majority, if not all of those meetings. It's a very important thing to be part of, and to offer our guidance and support for our educators, K through 5 and then 6 through 12. We've also provided the building principals with K to 5 and 6-12 MTSS referral forms. Those forms will be part of the process leading into our MTSS meetings. They'll provide the MTSS team with information prior to meetings so that they can review it and come with some interventions and thoughts and plans to those meetings so that they are more efficient. And then finally, we are working to collaboratively with teachers, administrators at both the cabinet level and at the building level to compile resource folders, data tools, progress monitoring tools, tier 1 intervention lists, toolkits, so to speak, so that teachers aren't on an island and just being told to figure it out, so to speak. We are really looking to support everybody in this process.
And really streamline and make sure that it's consistent K-12. So with that, one of the, we often talk about having a committee when we talk about a child's IEP and creating specific goals for them. That's in essence what an MTSS team does. And so we're asking our building principals to put together their MTSS team with the individuals listed above, and they we'll come together to take that data that we'll talk about in a second, and really use each of their expertise in their area, looking at the whole child and really understanding what is the picture in front of them and what interventions or supports can they put in to ensure that all students are successful. And so we're looking at making sure we have elements of each of our key content areas, as well as the referring teacher, to everyone put their heads together to create those clear goals for students.
So the MTS meetings are obviously a very important part of this whole step, and a point of emphasis for this year to have consistent meetings. However, there's a lot of work and build-up that goes into that prior to making a referral to an MTSS team. So we are looking at providing universal screeners and benchmarks, collecting data and into data progress monitoring on student performance in class, tests, quizzes, social emotional data, teacher reports, and teacher input is also extremely important this year. Bringing that all together to get a picture of the whole child and all their needs. From there, that's when we'll have those discussions at their weekly grade level or team level meetings, come up with plans, start implementing some interventions prior to getting into the MTS team, and then from there we come to the MTSS meeting.
So talking a little bit about data, students are more than just the letter M that they're reading or the number of an iReady score, and there are so many pieces that go into a child's success. So that's why we often, especially in higher level research, think about triangulation and using 3 points of data. So these are some examples of the types of data that we collect. And that looks very much like our iReady scores and our benchmarks, but also teacher reports, observations, attendance, and really that whole child experience, what they look like and how they engage in the classroom. As a side note, today we did share with the community that last year's 3 through 8 testing results, the parent reports, were posted on Backpack and Infinite Campus. So we will be sharing more data about how our school performed and that overarching data as we dig deeper into the data from Regents and our 3 through 8 testing in our November board meeting.
Which is a great segue into academic intervention services, or AIS, because oftentimes a single score or cut scores or things like that will be an entrance or an exit into academic intervention services. So we want to move away from that. We want to really get the spirit of the regulation, and I highlighted the one word in particular, considered. So when students are not meeting expectations on a state assessment, it could be one single bad testing day, it could be a number of different factors. They're not good at a summative assessment, or it's a high stakes test. So we want to make sure that we're taking, again, the whole picture into account when we're providing AIS services. The other point of emphasis on this slide I'd really like to do is that AIS services are skill focused, they're targeted, they're not supposed to be done in perpetuity. The student should not be stuck in AIS for the entirety of a year or anything like that. It really should be based on their need, and we have to do progress monitoring. And it's also additional instruction. It's not instruction instead of, it's not supposed to be in lieu of, it's supposed to be on top of Tier 1 interventions and other targeted interventions that are still happening in the classroom with the classroom teachers.
So as a result of our elementary school scheduling committee last year, one of the things and conversations we engaged in is making sure that students get the type of learning they need. And so that is where the essence of the WIN block comes. So this year, all of our K-5 schools, our K-5 classrooms have a WIN model. These WIN models look like they have two different options for a WIN model. The first is in class, where the teacher and the grade level has conversation about the types of students in the class and maybe what type of activities students can engage in based on the levels that they need in their classroom. And then at that time, that is when an interventionist is pulling students to work on the skills they need, whether that's an intervention because they're falling behind or because they are excelling in an area. The other model is the team-based, so that may be that the entire first grade team meets to talk about all their students, and they regroup the kids based on levels and what they're learning and maybe who's passionate about different topics as a teacher to work with different students across the grade. And again, students are pulled for their interventions during that time so that no one is missing core instruction and everyone is getting essentially what they need.
This just again highlights the amount of information we're bringing to the table when we go to the MTSS meeting. So we don't want students to be have a need and just go right to MTSS without any discussion with your team. We would like teachers to work with their students on some interventions. That all being said, MTSS is supposed to be a place where we can come together as a group and formulate a plan. So I know Lauren's traveled to different stakeholder groups. I've traveled to different stakeholder groups and faculty meetings, and I've made it very clear that if you're struggling, if you're stuck, this is supposed to be a learning process for all of us. And I'd rather you bring a student to an MTSS meeting and get some guidance, and then we can come back and check in with you. So it's not a situation where if you're a teacher and you need assistance with a student, or a student you've been trying things that's not working, you can't come. So it really is going to be more of a learning community and creating plans for each individual student and their needs.
After a referral is received, that's when our principals will guide these MTSS meetings. At that meeting, that is where we're going to see goals set for each student. So based on what that team identifies as a need, whether that is a short-term counseling need, meeting with one of our school counselors or social workers, maybe that is additional time with our STEAM teacher to engage in some interdisciplinary learning experiences, or meeting with one of our reading interventionists to ensure that our students are working on a specific skill, or math interventionist, doubles plus one, they really need that before they can get to the next level. After that meeting and that target date is set, then we'll have a clear understanding of this many weeks that child will be working on that skill, and then a check-in time. As we mentioned before, we're creating a robust toolbox so that this is a K-12 system. We've also created communication to go home so that it is very clear for our families to engage in this process, as well as what the goal will be and what kind of services students will be looking at.
Any questions?
You said the communication that goes home is clear. Can you explain exactly what it is? Because I know in the past it's not clear and nobody understands really what's happening when they get that letter sent home. It just states like tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3, whatever, but nobody knows what that means or why. So will you be calling parents and explaining it like more than a letter?
So it'll definitely go home as a letter so that we have a record. And then, of course, we're happy to explain that further. The letter this year is clearer in the way that it doesn't just state you get AIS or you're a tier 3 AIS. It is you are recommended for building level counseling 2 times a month for the next 6 weeks. So that everyone is clear on when the check-in will be and the target end date for that. And then after those 6 weeks, we're saying you don't need the building level counseling anymore, or you know what, we're going to continue with that, or here's an additional support that we need. Same thing, changing the language from AIS to math intervention and what that might look like.
Okay. And are you going to be taking kids into this that are like, because in the past they have not taken some kids into consideration who are like approaching grade level. So even though they're approaching, they're still below grade level,
Yeah.
which doesn't seem to be correct.
So one of, you can go ahead. And
So
I'll
I think that goes to the overall theme of not looking at a score, right? Not looking at an FMP or a state test score, because I think that when we look at one thing, it kind of robs some of the other things. So if a student's approaching, there must be some, possibly a reason why. There may be a skill deficit in an area. Rather than saying we're going to put that student in the AIS services, it's okay, we're going to create a targeted plan or targeted interventions to support that particular need, and hopefully that will fix whatever deficit area possibly, or they give them the support that they need to be successful in that area.
Right, because all the kids should be at grade level, right? So we want them to be at grade level, and if they're at approaching, then it seems like that's a flag, even if they're doing good in some areas.
So I think it's looking at the whole child and really making sure that we take into consider all the pieces and not putting a child into AIS because they're a grade level below just because of that score, and really looking at, okay, so they got that score, let's dig a little deeper. Okay, so they are falling short in the iReady in math, in fractions, okay? So they don't know their fractions. Let's take a little bit more time and analyze, okay, they actually don't know mixed number of fractions and how to add that. So let's give them AIS on that skill, and that'll bring them up to grade level on that skill. So our math coach is looking at breaking down all of our standards so that we can see where students are and the skills they need in order to get to that next level. There's also, I think, previously we had seen in a more RTI model, or just considering AIS in an individual basis as grouping kids, just in this is you're approaching kid, you're a below kid, you're an above kid. But now, to Chris's point, I think we're going to be looking at all of the elements and calling home to say, you know, we noticed this on already, but all the other tests are doing great. Did something happen that day? Or maybe this is another area, and we have the WIN model now, so that, you know, we're engaging in different activities so that we can see, okay, everyone is getting a different targeted level in their classroom, and then who needs more beyond that. So those kids who are on the cusp of approaching will be getting those services in a tier 1 model.
I think it's also coming, I got a little close there, sorry. I think it's also coming away from the idea that, okay, you're approaching grade level. It's more about, okay, why are you struggling in this particular area? And how can we remediate or intervene in that particular area to get you to where you need to be and to be successful, be able to access the curriculum in class. I also think we need to acknowledge too, it's not just about AIS services, right? AIS is part of the MTSS process, but there's many components. Part of that is the WIN model, where they'll hope, you know, teachers will be either working collaboratively with their grade level teams or individually, but again, targeting instruction to what each student needs. And as Lauren highlighted, it could be students who have an area of need in a specific skill. It could also be students who have areas that they need enrichment in, or social emotional well-being. So it's again, that circular idea, it's the entire picture.
And having these team meetings also create an opportunity for our teachers to look at patterns, so that they can say, oh, you know what, the third graders are really struggling, or these 10 third graders are really struggling in this skill, and this is why they're not performing well in this area. So let's use the WIN time to really target that and drill down, and then hopefully they'll be beyond that.
Yeah, I think too, just like sending communication home to parents clearly is important, because I think it's very confusing what has been done in the past, and parents panic, especially when they see like approaching or below, and they get these letters. So I think if it's more clear what's happening, that would be good.
Absolutely.
I know, I'm asking these questions just to clarify for the committee. So I know a lot of times when we were thinking about a lot of these things, it's been AIS, and I love that you brought that up, that it's not just AIS, but that tends to be the one thing that parents have the most information on, because it's the word that was out there the most. Can you guys just explain a little bit more about how, like, I always refer to it as a life sentence, right? Sometimes students get in to an AIS class, and then they're kind of stuck in there, right? And there's never a time for them to be able to be promoted out or get the tools that they need to be successful, or it's just, you've now been programmed, there's no place else for you to go, so we're just gonna leave you in there. Can you guys just, for the community, elaborate a little bit more about what that time frame should look like? Because I do believe, according to the state mandate, it's approximately 10 weeks it's supposed to be, and that just because a child was in AIS once doesn't mean that they have to live in there forever.
Absolutely. I think, you know, I would be apprehensive to put a timeline on anything, right? Because one student might need 2-3 weeks of interventions, and they understand the concept, and another student might need more, and everyone's different. So I think, you have to really look again. I know it's a cliche at this point, but the whole child, the whole picture. I also think that many times we were looking at things like approaching grade level, or we looked at a score on a state test, and they couldn't get out until they reached a certain thing. When you isolate skills and needs more, and you focus on that instructionally, and you target those interventions towards the skill rather than a certain level, you can have more of, I think, flexibility and mobility when it comes to an AIS process or an RTI, an MTSS process, sorry. It's just a matter of changing kind of your mindset as to what we're looking for and what we're looking at. And it's less about, oh, well, they're a J, or they're a B, or they're an X, or they're a 2, and more about, okay, they need work on decoding vowel teams, or multisyllabic words with irregular spelling patterns. They need multi-digit addition and subtraction or fraction understanding. When you start targeting the actual skills, you can then say, okay, let's put a plan in place to target that particular thing with an intervention that's research proven, and then we can have that upward mobility for students.
I think we could debate what does it mean to be on grade level and who decides what that number is, right? What does it mean to be on grade level? You could go further. What does it mean to get an A in a class, right? So I think that by equipping our staff and the community with really understanding the skills and standards that need to be met at each level, and spending time understanding what needs to be taught and how it needs to be taught and where those gaps are, and then helping our students understand, not that I'm bad at math, but that I don't know how to add fractions, and that's the skill I'm working on. But I do know how to do these 10 other things, and shifting the conversation away from, I'm passing or I'm failing, but really more about this is what I know now, and this is what I want to know by the end.
Thank you.
Microphone. My first time using it. I actually have two comments. The first one is I love that the system, we're talking a lot about academic skills, but I also wanted to say thank you for including the speech, the OT, those sensory pieces that often inhibit children from learning. Even though they might have all the academic skills, they might not be able to apply them because they just can't sit still or something. So it's super important that you're also bringing those members of that team in, because it's a huge part of learning, and it could affect all of those different academic skills, all those different learning areas in a lot of different ways. So that's another way to look at this too. It's like it might not be fractions, it might not be spelling, it might not be, expressive language. It might actually be that they just can't control their impulses or something like that. So it's a great system that is all-encompassing for the whole child. A question is actually something that Lauren brought up. At what point in the process, so you guys actually kind of highlighted how the steps go through the school and through your offices, but at which one of those steps does that letter or that communication go to the parents? Because I could see potentially 3 different places where the parents could be notified. It could be the principal, is it your office, is it the classroom teacher? Like, where does that communication specifically go out to the parents, say for the first time that their kid is going to be receiving MTSS interventions?
So I think, what we're looking to do is when a student is brought to MTSS, realistically, I know this is probably, again, a cliche education thing, but the first time that you get a call from a teacher shouldn't be mid through the year, hey, there's a problem. So there should hopefully be communications with parents prior to these things if we're noticing issues in the classroom, number one. And then from there, if there's an MTSS referral, that's when that, once the plan is in place as to what the intervention is going to look like, that's when that letter would go out. And again, the letter is for a trail. But that doesn't mean that that letter is the only communication or any only discussion. One of the slides has a highlight of parental input, because I think that's important. What you're seeing at home, what you're seeing from your student when they're completing homework, things of that nature is an important data point as well. We use data kind of as a term thrown around very easily, but data is a lot of different things. It's not just a state test score or the iReady, it's also observation of students in classrooms, observation at home, behavioral observations, social emotional consultations, things like that. So that's not, there's no nailed down answer there, but realistically the letter should go out when there's a referral to MTSS and there's a plan being implemented, but also there should be communication before and after that with input and discussion.
Good, thanks.
I have one other question, sorry. Question.
No,
Yeah,
Alexis had a question.
whatever. You can go first.
Yeah, it's Alexis.
Well,
You've been waiting for a while.
just, no, go.
I was going to say, because I know parents get very confused with these types of things and overwhelmed. If they feel there's a problem, but they're getting pushback from someone, who should they reach out to start the process? Because I think a lot of people don't know. Like, we know who to reach out to, but like, say you try to reach out to the principal or the teacher or someone and they don't see your concerns, what's the next step?
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that, always start with the teacher, right? Because I think that, in my opinion at least, and I believe that Lauren and Ms. Trombley and the rest of the cabinet would agree, they're doing the work with the students, right? So they see them every single day, they see where they're at. I believe they need to be the principal, and then obviously if there's still maybe a question, then I would feel comfortable reaching out further than that. However, what I would say is that Lauren and I, again, are really going to be at these meetings. So it's going to be a point of emphasis for us to really have discussions about any students who are in need of anything. So I think that this year you'll see that process smoother.
Awesome. I love this. I think it's amazing. I commend all of the amazing work that has gone into this. So thank you very much. And you are both wonderful, and I love how you work together like a team, and it's going to be amazing. On the flip side of all of this, the MTSS process is also for students who need enrichment. And I think that like the conversation just leans away from that. Like a lot of the data examples kind of lean more negative, right? Like failed courses and stuff like that. Interventions sound negative. So is a referral also going to be used for a child that a teacher sees is completely bored with 5th grade literacy and we need to do something for this kid because they have amazing skills? Could you be like a tier 2 referral because your reading level is off the charts and you need something different?
Yes. So I know that our math coach actually has been coordinating this past week at the WIN model at FGL for some students who need enrichment activities and who are performing beyond what the classroom teacher is ready to teach. So she's been taking on a small group and working with those teachers to make sure that those students are receiving what they need and at their level. So it should go both ways, and I think that's the beauty of the MTSS, and New York State is even going MTSSI. It's like beyond. So there's so many levels to it, but I definitely, and the perfect piece to having a what I need is that teachers can then collaborate with each other to say, oh, you have a child who's reading, and really interested in snakes, and we could take these 1st graders and put them together and give them that nonfiction skill, even though they're not in the same class. So that is the conversations that we're hoping to help our teachers have, so that when we get to the MTSS model, we can say, these are the types of programming we have and the supports we have for students.
And then is there notification to the parents in the positive, right? Not that your child is struggling, that we are doing all of these things to help your child keep reaching for the stars. Because I think that when we lost the quote-unquote Horizons program, whatever year that was, things kind of changed, went away, COVID, yada, yada, yada. I think that a lot of the community's perspective is like, great, we have a lot of programs to support our children that need extra help, but what are we doing for students that need enrichment and need more? So I think it's really important to make sure that our parents are aware at all levels, right, K through 12, that we are also recognizing, notifying them, because we all think our children are soaring away. But no, that's amazing. So the conversation always leans more towards how do we support students that need help, but sometimes it's not about help. Sometimes it's about needing help in achieving that extra step. My last comment or question, I don't know what it is, food for thought. I think there's also a tough challenge for students or parents of students when you're kind of like middle of the road. So do they become forgotten in this, right? Like, obviously I know the answer is no, but for the parents who say, well, my kid's just like an average middle of the road student, now you're focusing on the kids that need the extra support and the kids that need enrichment. What's going to happen to my kid? What do you say to that?
Yeah. So what I would say is that the overall theme behind MTSS is getting every student what they need when they need it.
Awesome.
Whatever that might be, whether that be enrichment, that might be help with a particular skill, that might just be additional practice in a skill that they have are close to mastery, that's on grade level. It could be social emotional health and supports, it could be a number of different things. So the best thing to think about MTSS, the simplest form I always think about it, is getting everyone what they need when they need it.
Amazing. So that basically says at some point in a student's journey, they'll likely be plucked for recognized for something that they can either improve on or.
There's an age-old saying that every child should have an IEP, right? Every child should. Don't worry, Chris. Every child should know what their goal is and how to achieve that goal, and what does mastery mean, and they should and every family should be involved in crafting that and making sure that they know where they are, not just on or below grade level, right? It's ambiguous, but if we can say by the end of 3rd grade, these are the skills you need to meet by this point, and then start that conversation, that's ultimately the goal, so that everyone at some point should have what they need whenever they need it, and targeted to their interests. So maybe it's a passion project, or maybe it's something that, reinforcing what they need.
Excellent. Thank you.
I just have a quick question. I think everything looks amazing that you're doing, but I know someone's gonna walk up to us and say, hey, that presentation was awesome, but can you tell me what you changed from last year to this year, and just a summary of it so that they understand what you think were the biggest changes you made?
Sure. I think number one is the overall emphasis in the district. So not that it wasn't an emphasis or it wasn't important, I do think that sometimes in the day-to-day hustle and bustle of the school building, sometimes things get pushed or things get rushed. This year, this is our point of emphasis. Lauren and I are making this our point of emphasis as well, amongst other things, of course, but really making sure that we are present, we're there as a resource, talking to, again, teachers, talking to building principals, assistant principals. The resource folders are new, again, providing teachers with supports, resources they can use. Not to say that they have to utilize those, but we are providing those things for you to be a resource, and then asking our providers, our teachers, our building principals to also add to those resource folders. So those are some of the changes, yes.
So we talked a lot about what's going to happen at the building levels. We talked about the parents. I just wanted to now bring the focus to the students. So I know especially like when you particularly have like a CSE meeting for older students, they're usually present and involved, and you ask them like how they feel during the process. And younger students, normally those conversations about the student are happening without the student present. I think you just said it wonderfully before that we want to make sure the students know what master, like what are you trying to master? What is your goal? Throughout this process, how are the students going to be involved? Like how is the conversation, especially when we talk about our younger ones who are trying to decode or add fractions, how are they involved in this process, and when are they brought into the conversation?
Absolutely. So I think just overall, as a good teaching, you want to have students understand the why of what they're doing. And so I think, with the teachers, when they're in small groups or when they're in an enrichment group, or if they're seeing a school counselor or a school social worker, that why. Okay, like why are we here? Like Lauren said, what are we trying to accomplish? Because I think it's more effective when the students understand kind of what we're working towards. Why am I working in this small group? Well, you may need assistance with this particular skill, and when you get that, then you're going to go off to something else. So those conversations at the ground level with teachers, I think, especially with our younger students, will be helpful. And then obviously, as students progress through the grades and matriculate, then having them maybe be part of the conversation when they're struggling, or perhaps getting input as to their own struggles as well would be something we would look into.
And the teachers are building routines right now for the WIN model, so that we can see that fluidity, and that students can see the different levels of learning going on, so that if a student is working in a smaller group with an interventionist, that it's seen as a good thing, and so that we can start to shift that conversation that intervention is not just a bad thing, right? It could be that I'm intervening on this because I love it and I want to learn more. And so starting to build that conversation, and as we move as a district, considering how we can build that out.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
So I want to thank Ms. Scollins and Mr. Moreno for leading the efforts that is a system-wide approach to implementing MTSS with fidelity that is understandable, that is also actionable. It's an expectation of mine that when we say something that we follow through on that. If you go back to my theory of action for this year, that is how you build trust. You say something, you follow through on it, and where it's most important is how we're supporting all learners. So that's we look forward to implementing these changes. I would say that this work began. I'm going to talk in a little bit about a system, and this is one component of an overall system where you change one thing and you probably see a change in another area. This work began all the way back when we started talking about our elementary schedules. How do we design a schedule where we can provide time for interventions that we can all that not only fits within contract language, but that works for students, that works for the leadership of the building. So this is, and then over the summer, there were conversations with administrators on what they needed and how we were going to support them. And then I commend Lauren and Chris for their approach to leadership by going to the meetings, not to go there to say what needs to happen, but to learn what's happening in the building so that when we ask questions, when the community has questions, they know firsthand what's occurring in these meetings and how they're rolling out. So thank you not only for the presentation, but your work on this.
Excellent job, thank you.
Oh, right. So, so we have another presentation this evening. I will be leading. I will be leading a discussion on a topic called regionalization. And so just a reminder of what regionalization is. So this work began by the state of New York to implement this concept of, oh, that's interesting. Oh, there it goes. I thought I was censoring something. This concept began by the state of New York about a year and a half ago, where New York State came down with a directive that all districts will engage in regionalization. And our first response as superintendents was, that's great, what is it? And I think New York State was trying to process through what that truly was as they were rolling this out. So we find ourselves here about a year and a half later, and we're going to share some of the work that's been done. If you want to go to the next, to the objective slide, we're going to share some of the work that's been done since we last updated you on this in the spring. We're going to talk about potential opportunities to partner with other districts in the concept of regionalization. We'll remind everybody what regionalization is. And then we'll gather board input on priority areas, because we do have a certification form that we submit to the state to say, hey, the state will say, you guys agreed to participate in regionalization and receive any funding that may come as a result of that, of partnering with your BOCES. The next step that we're going to ask you is, what are you specifically going to do as part of the larger BOCES plan? So we had a number of our board trustees join me at a riveting meeting last week already, last Wednesday at PNW BOCES, where BOCES gathered information from component districts, all the districts within the BOCES, and talked about what are some shared needs, what are some shared outcomes that we'd like to see, and they processed that and they presented to members of our board just for this meeting tonight so that we can share in public where we might like to go as part of that plan. So if we go to the next slide, when we talk about what regionalization is, this is right from the New York State Education Department website. It's basically taking best practices that are occurring in isolated districts, or what the state may view as isolated districts, and scaling that so that more children of the state of New York can benefit. For those of you who have experience with school districts, you may say, well, isn't that what BOCES does? Doesn't BOCES take something that perhaps one district may benefit from and tries to see where other districts could benefit from it? Maybe one school district can't afford a physical therapist. So BOCES will hire physical therapists, and the districts within this region can share that physical therapist. And you're exactly right. So that's why this may be something that people involved in education have a problem articulating. But we know that we would believe that there is a positive outcome for students, so we want to be part of this journey and move through it. So that is, if you want to know the specific language from the state of New York, this is me quoting the state of New York. This isn't me saying what it is. It's New York State Education Department states that regionalization is a collaborative approach where multiple school districts share services, programs, and resources to improve efficiency, expand access to specialized programs, reduce cost, and enhance educational outcomes. Pretty much what we do with BOCES on a normal basis. So that's why we looked to BOCES, and the state looked to BOCES to really lead this process. So what is the process? Since we as a district made the decision to participate in regionalization, which I will go back, what regionalization is not from in terms of a definition. It is not where you are merging school districts and closing down one school district to save money to merge. There may be some school districts, my hometown school district, yes, way up north, yes, may choose to do that. My school district that I grew up in, quick sort of side story, my father was the principal of the rival school that I went to. They were the Elizabethtown Lions, I went to the Westport Central, and they were the Eagles. They combined or merged about 10 years ago, and I'm sorry, about 8 years ago. Guess what their mascot became? The Griffin, yes. And they you had a flying eagle. That looked like a lion. So,
Flying line.
so they did not see the benefits that they were promised by that merger. So this is what's that? How long? So I was on the bus, even though I lived about a mile from school. If I rode the bus, I was on the bus for about an hour.
See?
So that's why my parents told me to walk.
Should have taken the Griffin.
Should have taken it. What's funny is that we were always rivals in sports, and we don't have football. We're too small, so we played soccer. And the year that we combined, they won the state championship. So that was kind of interesting for Class D. It's 150 kids, K through 12. I digress. So it is not merging. It is not trying to close schools down for the sake of efficiencies. That is what regionalization is not. The process of this began about a year and a half ago, where the state explained it to superintendents. They tried to clarify through a number of public sessions. They even had the commissioner come down to PMW BOCES to clarify what it was. Some of our trustees attended that meeting. Most recently, BOCES held regionalization discussions with administrators saying, hey, what are your needs? What are some shared opportunities that we can have to partner? They took that big, large list, condensed it, presented to boards of education in the spring. The boards of education provide a little bit of direction of what they might like to see from their perspective. We regrouped as superintendents and administrators with BOCES. They narrowed it down to a couple of activities. And then last week's meeting with boards of education further shared what we thought we were going to do in terms of our approach. So BOCES shared their final draft of the plan for our region. So what came out of that possible activities is on the next slide, and I'll just go real quick through here, because you'll see these possible activities drilled down to the actual plan that BOCES presented. So there was a lot of talk around shared mental health services, community-based health resources, supporting of pre-K throughout the region, shared transportation services. If we know that we have in Hen Hud a student going down to White Plains, and we know that Brewster is sending somebody down to White Plains, is there some way that we can, within contract, within union frameworks, collective bargaining agreements, is there a particular way that we can share those services and coordinate? If we know that perhaps BOCES can offer a regional coordinator of transportation for out-of-district students. There's no definite as to what we are looking to do here. There are just large-scale buckets that we have some ideas of what we'd like to explore, and that's the step we're at right now. Also looking at how can BOCES in our region support workforce development, providing internships. Perhaps there is a regional internship coordinator who now not only do we focus on internships within the Hendrick Hudson educational community, but perhaps a broader Putnam Northern Westchester regional internship coordinator who can have an idea of what is available for students within this region. Also, always looking at how we can better support our English language learners and our adult education adult learners, and then also taking a look at some security functions that perhaps could be shared throughout the region. That led us to tonight, where we look to gather your input on those specific activities. The ask of the Board of Education is to provide me with a sense, because I have to submit a state report by October 1st that will say, we agreed to participate in whatever you thought regionalization was at that time. We have a better understanding of some of the activities that could be asked of us if we look to partner with regionalization. There is by no means a commitment to give any of our resources or to fund any of these programs at this point in time. It's just a commitment that our district will participate in X, Y, and Z going forward at this point in time to the best of our knowledge. So the state will be asking us, because BOCES has generated this plan based upon our feedback, if we will consider participating in regional mental health services, cooperative pre-K, and the preschool CSE process, transportation coordination, and regional work-based learning coordination. I will file a preliminary report on what we plan to participate in. It does not commit us, as I said, to full participation. And BOCES will continue to offer these activities to the region whether or not we participate in regionalization. So you may say, well, why do we need to participate? Well, one, we did say that we were going to participate. And two, there may be more of a financial benefit, or there may be additional activities that we could, because of a partnership, informal means, we would allow this to. So at this point in time, this is where I ask, out of these activities, is there anything that the board would like me to would like the district to continue to pursue with BOCES? Yes.
Just a question about 1.1, the regional mental health services. This would supplement what we already have for mental health services in each individual district.
Correct.
It would not supplant what we currently have in our buildings.
Correct. We would
So-
not be giving anything up.
Great.
We would be adding to that more. For instance, BOCES just negotiated a regional contract with Northwell Mental Health Services that allows us, Chris, correct me if I overstep on this, that allows us to offer basically a mental health clinic within, that our students would have access to. So that's an example.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, great. Then yay more.
Then we can get rid of our social workers because of that, right? So that's just an example of how this might work.
Right, more and not.
Yes, and.
Yes, and, exactly. And then the other one is the same, sorry, Lauren, just one more thing. The same thing about 1.2, so the CPSE services and the co-op pre-K. Can you just elaborate a little bit about that? Because this is such a big thing in our district right now where we're trying to organize our pre-K program. We've tried a couple different formats over the last few years. So how would this look? Would this be restructuring the current pre-K program we have now? What does that exactly mean? And then as far as CPSE services, regionalizing, does that mean we would be including students from other districts? Are we expanding those services? Are we continuing what we have now? And I'm just a teeny tiny bit more detail about
Yeah.
those two things so that.
So in general terms, let me start with the pre-K. It wouldn't necessarily ask us to restructure, but as an example, let's say we are allowed 137 seats.
Oh, okay.
No, I hate hearing my voice.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Corey. Okay.
So let's say we are allotted 137 seats. Lauren, I'm not sure how many we have. Is it 116? Let's say one year we're allocated 130 because of the funding. And we don't utilize all of our seats. Yet there may be, so for instance, in the district that I attend, there's a lottery because they don't have that number of seats. Perhaps there's a way to structure it where if a district has not allocated all of its seats, that other districts could partner with those open seats and join. So that's an example.
So that's another yes and. Love
Yes.
it, okay.
And then
Do you
for
think you would take out-of-district kids into our?
it could be considered. That's an opportunity. You're not mandated to do it.
If we had the open seats that weren't being filled?
I don't know. I mean, that's not Alexis Bernard personal opinion, but that's something that the community might say, wait, hang on, you're gonna take students from another community and put them in our buildings?
But that's
Yeah.
also not definite, right?
No,
Correct.
I
That's
know
just an
that.
example.
Yeah,
I'm
It's
just
an
saying,
example.
that's a red flag to me. I'm totally all about more. I'm totally all about, I'm comfortable with if the board wants to pursue being part of this. I'm totally cool. I would just be cautious about, before we commit to things, coming back to the board to have a
course.
discussion.
So that goes part and parcel with whatever we do in terms of this planning. And it might allow us, there may be a time where we don't have enough seats and we may be looking for support for our students. So, and again, we're not signing off on opening up our seats. This is just an idea of some of the things we might be able to accomplish. in
Because
terms of-
I'm also remembering prior conversations with whichever board was sitting here at the table, I don't know, and community members. People didn't love the idea of children coming into our buildings that were not part of our district. So it just sounds to me a little dicey. I think it's bigger than us sitting here. So I'm all in favor of participating. I just think that we need to be updated all the time.
And to that end, that's what this is about. This is not about committing us to anything.
Yeah.
This is about going to the next step of, let's say, discovery.
Yep.
Except discovery now with a more targeted plan.
Yep.
In terms of the Committee on Preschool, Special Education, it may look, maybe there's a shared coordinator for running the meetings. That because and that many people may not see the resources that are put into that, nor have the resources to fully devote to that. Also, if we do have a service that is provided, that is identified by the CPSE as a student needs to receive, we know that that first goes to the county, that they have that responsibility. But what we've seen over the past couple of years is that the county has not been able to provide those services because of the amount of resources that they are using. And in the end, the district still ultimately is responsible for that child as part of their system. So perhaps there's a way that we can leverage some regional resources if the county is not able to live up to their commitment, that we might be able to, if it's for speech, OT, PT, any of those types of things.
Lauren, you have a question?
I was just gonna say, when we were at the meeting, we were asking you why wouldn't other districts want to do it, so I didn't know if you wanted to mention, like you said, it's not gonna cost any money, like you guys would be
Right.
interested, or.
Well, I think Alexis
Yeah.
brings up a
Yeah, like that's
fair
one of the
point.
things.
There are some people. Listen, I was very skeptical about what regionalization was when it was presented to us, because it was shared that when NYSED was rolling this out, New York State Education Department, they went to other groups, stakeholders other than school superintendents, to share this plan first, yet relied on superintendents to roll out the plan. So we were just questioning the motives of state education department. So I was a little skeptical about this, especially since this is something that we do through BOCES. So we had a lot of questions about as this is superintendents. So some districts may not want to look to that partnership because they don't feel strong enough with the unknown or what they may be committing to. But know this, I think anybody who attended that meeting with our district superintendent, Neil Boyle, he said, we're going to do this work anyway, even if there isn't somebody who, not every BOCES may have that approach, just so you know that.
But you can say things you're interested in, not
Correct.
interested, so like,
Yep.
you could say you're interested, but not in pre-K.
And this is one checkpoint. There may be another time to say, hey, if it's going down that road, our board and our community does not feel comfortable with that.
So, I just,
What I was gonna say at the meeting, I mean, we're not committing any dollars to this right now, and I think as they get further into developing this, there is stuff we're gonna have to come back to the community with once we figure out dollar amounts and how this is all gonna roll out. But I think for the initial steps of us just saying, why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't we want a partnership just to see where it goes so that we're involved in that? I don't see the harm in doing it right now. It's not like we're signing the district up for anything and we're saying, hey, this is what we're doing now. This is just saying that we're interested in it and we want to participate, right?
Yes, correct. At this next stage of the plan. And I, of course, we will always bring you updates. We will be transparent. We will, that's why having a close partnership with BOCES, and BOCES has been a true partner in this. The fact that BOCES took this on gave me the confidence to know that we were going to do it as a cohesive and supportive, in a cohesive and supportive manner.
I just wanted to ask Chloe, so this was a conversation that we had started last year, and we went to meetings on this last year and had discussions. As you're listening to this now, do you have any questions that is anything not clear for you, or any comments on things that you would want to see included in here?
I think that when we were talking about like the pre-K, like in past years, have we had a lot of open spots? Like have we had, like for our district, have we had open spots? Because I feel like again, like I personally agree, like that why wouldn't we do it? I think BOCES, a lot of my friends are in BOCES, they love it, like it's a great program. And like it is a different pathway where like my friends who like wouldn't be successful in school are really successful at BOCES. Like even people like that are my friends on my team, like they're really successful in BOCES. So I think if we could start that off for like younger kids, I think that's great. But I think in terms of like the other side of like, do we have the spots? Like have we had in past years the open spots? And if we do have the open spots, like what could be a benefit of not, like if we didn't fill those spots, isn't that extra like money? Like I could be wrong, I don't really know. Like if we have open spots, like 20 kids don't come, like I think the argument would be like, why would we fill our spots if like my kid could get a benefit from it?
So great question. We're allotted each year by the state of New York X number of spots for pre-K, and we have not reached the limit in any of the years that we've offered pre-K. This is our now third year of offering pre-K, but we have had open seats.
And yeah, I think that will be, as we said, once we go through talking with like our partner schools in BOCES, seeing what are some areas that we want to look at for partnership.
These are very, very complex.
Hypothetical.
Yeah, very, very complex steps to go through to make any of this come to fruition because, just as an example, if we do a regional coordinator of transportation, we as an administration have to do the work to say, okay, how does that impact any collective bargaining agreement we have? How does that impact any of our operations that we need to change? Or if it impacts UPK, how do our partners who provide UPK, such as the YMCA, what work must we do with them to make sure that they're on board with this process too? So I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask if anybody else had any questions or comments for the table.
Is it the sense of the board that we submit that we would be willing to go to the next steps of planning and exploration on regional mental health services, cooperative pre-K and CPSE services, transportation coordination, and regional work-based learning coordination? With the understanding that you will be kept abreast and updated as to what that means.
Can I just ask, 1.4, does that include the like adult education and E&L?
Yes.
And then security, is that also in 1.4? Because I know on the slide before you meant, I know these were just areas that they said were possible, but you said looking at like the safety coordinator positions, SRO, which of those categories?
I think Neil mentioned that that's going to be tabled for right now under the plan.
Okay.
I believe for some reason he said it was going to be tabled just based upon as they.
Yeah, I think they were gonna work through trying to get the same pay scale across the
Oh,
region,
okay.
but that's for the next time. They're just presenting the outline that we just saw for now.
Okay.
I shared the
So working
activities
on it.
slide 6, just to show
Okay.
Yeah.
many of the main topics that came up as part of those
Okay.
regional conversations.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so it's the sense of the board that I will submit that we are willing to explore all activities as presented by our regional BOCES.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so don't think you're getting off the hook yet. We are up to agenda item number 8, the superintendent's update.
Okay, so we have a few items that we are going to update in the form of a presentation on reopening. So, Greg, if you want to pull up our reflections on reopening. So if you remember last year, I know all of you do very well, we committed to providing, particularly with the reorganizational plan that was in place, we committed to provide a detailed presentation on reopening. I liked it so much, I thought I'd do it again. Not because we have a reorganization, but because of the amount of work that goes into supporting the reopening of schools, and I wanted to take a moment to recognize the many groups of our employees who helped to make that possible. So again, if we go to our mission, I want to focus on that because I want to pause to just reflect on how intricate it is to launch our school system. And I use that word system purposefully. A system by its definition is a coordinated network designed to achieve a particular outcome. For us, that purpose remains here, our mission. So to inspire, excuse me, I just have to grab a paper towel. Sorry, one thing that all educators get at the beginning of the year is your annual welcome back to school virus. So that's at play here. So I apologize for just having to step out. So our system, we are trying to meet our stated mission. That is the sole purpose while we exist. That's to inspire every student, become an engaged, passionate learner, reaching their fullest potential and giving back to our society. Our system is remarkably intricate. Consider the countless elements that we have woven together to open schools. Evolving health guidelines, new technology rollouts, staff development, family communication, after-school programming, UPK, supply chain delays, community partnerships, new regulations, and unexpected events. We all have to be responsive to those inputs to our system that may help us or hinder us from reaching our stated mission, which is the desired output of our system. So each of these inputs shapes how we fulfill that mission. When one input shifts, even slightly, it can trigger a domino effect. For example, not that this would ever happen, but let's say there's a new cell phone regulation. That may cause a district to adapt to logistics and management protocols, and a shift in funding from one state to provide a universally free breakfast and lunch saw us to adjust our food service operation and plan. So launching the school year is not just about logistics. It's about harmonizing every piece: transportation, nutrition, classroom readiness, safety, and more, so that all of our students start strong. The complexity of our system means that small changes create big waves, often unseen by the public, and I wanted to take time to explore those waves tonight. So for a few minutes this evening, I invite us to reflect upon these integrated parts and how we as leaders, how can we as leaders anticipate challenges, foster clear communication, and provide supports to our staff so that we can thrive, not just start throughout the school year. And most importantly tonight, I want to celebrate what went well and reflect upon what we can do to improve. So if we go to the next slide, excuse me. This is what we want to do, just that. We want to look at what happened, what went well, and what we can improve for next year, because believe it or not, it's almost June. And if it's almost June, it's already almost time to start thinking about opening next September. Nobody's counting, right? So as you know, this is one of my favorite quotes. You're already thinking about it, right? You're already, this is one of my favorite quotes. It reminds us that we cannot predict every challenge, especially at the start of the school year, but the act of planning brings our team together and prepares us to adapt. It's not about having the perfect plan. I was at my son's reopening, and he's a first grader in the South Orangetown School District. And this was as a transformer actually was exploding, causing a change in how they do their pickup for that particular time. Good thing I picked my son up early. But a question was asked, why can't you get it perfect? And I wanted to answer, but it wasn't my place. But there's no way to get such a thing perfect. We strive for perfection. We start planning the minute the students go home to how do we welcome them back. But because there are so many intricate inputs to our systems, we must try to plan for the best and plan for the worst and hope for the best, excuse me. So that's how we approach these things. And true leadership, you know that you cannot plan for everything, but you've instilled in others, members of the team, that they should respond in a creative, responsive manner, because they're not going to get it perfect. And how we respond, especially with something as intricate as opening schools, almost matters more than how we planned and tried to address everything. So I want to express my gratitude to everyone who supported us during our reopening, and we continue to refine our systems even now. For instance, I was asked, is transportation perfect? No, it's not perfect right now. And if I were to come up here and say that to you, that would be a lie, and that's not how we approach things. But my expectation is that if it's not perfect, each day will get a little bit better and continue to improve each day. So I'm proud of our community. That means everybody who called in, everybody who shared information, everybody who expressed a concern. These are all things that we need to hear. Our children, I know, are our top priority, and we all want them to have the best possible experience. And since it can bring so much anxiety when we open schools, all of the inquiries I've received so far have been delivered to me with patience and understanding. Most of the inquiries say, I know it's opening, I know it's early, so that right there demonstrates empathy and an understanding that everybody came here with good intentions to try to do what's best for our students. So I want to thank the community for their continued partnership. Before we begin, I had planned on inviting every single member of the group you see before here to this evening to recognize them and celebrate them and share with them this joyous occasion. And luckily I have a very good team who, I'll make this G-rated, who reminded me that probably inviting people to a board meeting would not be a present. What's that?
So it's almost 8:30.
It's almost 8:30. I'm going, folks. So, Greg, could you click on a brief slideshow so that they didn't have to attend this 8:30 meeting? Just to recognize a small group of our employees. So I want to thank Mr. Josh Thompson for helping put together that slideshow that saved people from having to come here at 8:30 on a Tuesday night. But that also highlighted some of our very valued team members who, with smiles on their face, did the hard work to help welcome back our students. If we go to the next slide. So we asked our leaders this year a few questions. We asked them what went well and what systems and structures allowed that to occur. We asked them what could be improved and what systems and structures do we need to consider. We asked them, what they are proud of and what still needs to be addressed. So we summarize on the next slide the response of our leaders. I'm not going to insult your intelligence and read these to you, but there was a general sentiment that we were able to get off the ground running right away and focus on instruction, all the way to our first superintendent's conference day and making sure that teachers felt supported there. There were a number of clear structures and supports available for students, and that there was a responsive tone to opening the building. Additionally, we asked them what could be improved. So they said, always, and I will always say this, you can always improve how you communicate. People's expectations of communication changes, the way you communicate changes. So I will always say this, if any organization is looking for just one place that they can continually improve, it's communication. We wanted to make sure that next year we consider perhaps how do we finalize staffing earlier. That is an intricate component in and of itself because there are many parameters that we must follow in terms of how we staff our buildings, whether it be collective bargaining agreements, civil service regulations. But that's definitely something that we can look to improve. And then also we can always continue to strengthen how we prepare for welcoming back students. We didn't just ask them what went well and what could have been improved, what we were proud of. And many of our leaders expressed that the staff worked together as a cohesive collaborative unit to get the ultimate goal of reopening schools in a smooth manner. I received information that echoes what our leaders shared with us as well, that many people felt the buildings were in a shape that they had not seen in years, and that they felt that the buildings really were. I love a good waxed, buffed, and polished floor. I don't know if it's from my military training, but when I walk in and I can see my reflection in the floor, I'm right there. So that's just one of my, kick plates are a big thing for me. If kick plates are clean, water fountains are clean. So the attention to detail I feel was there. So thank you to our facility staff for really paying that attention to that detail. Because, Chloe, I hope you can understand why we're taking time on how buildings look, because I truly think that if students feel that they are in a safe and clean environment, that can allow them to focus on learning. So we hope you felt that. And also, our leaders felt that there was a positive culture and leadership tone throughout the building, that the first day went smooth. It allowed people to focus on getting their classrooms, their learning spaces, their workspaces ready to go. That's what they were proud of. And then the next slide is areas that we probably could address as we look into the next school year. Again, communication came out as a theme, additional family engagement, and always how we have student supports at the forefront of our mind. So those are all ways that we can improve. Next slide, we didn't just ask our leadership and our administrators what could be improved. We put out, before school started, we put out a form. Now, our staff and our employees and even our families have ways to receive support on things they're concerned about. Whether it be you reach out to a building principal or a classroom teacher about your students' progress. If you have a facilities concern, we have a facilities help desk system. We have a technology help desk system. So that's a normal process where our staff log concerns about their facilities, which is often something that we have to drill down to when we open up schools. But however, we know the opening of schools can cause extra stress and extra anxiety, so we wanted to be responsive to that. We put out a form for anybody who had a concern about their particular assigned work area or anything related to facilities, and we had it out a couple weeks before school. I kept it open until last week, and we had 2 concerns. And one of the parameters of submitting that concern was you had to touch base with your supervisor first, and we had 2 concerns. And so I'm laughing because last year we had 14. And all of these concerns came from, one of the concerns came from central office and one came from technology. And is that?
I was just trying to figure out where the central office it came from.
What if I submitted it because I wanted to have data for this presentation? But we do have those normal ticketing systems in place at the help desk for facilities and technology, so I'm sure there were more there, but this was outside that scope of there. So I'm very proud of our facilities department and our technology team for being proactive in addressing some of those concerns. If we go to our next slide, you can already see that we're planning for next year already. I joke around and say it's almost June, but it is. We are already in our initial budget discussions on what we might look to shape for the budget. You get 1 day of no budget talk, and that's probably the day after the budget vote. If it's a passed budget, you get that time to take a breath, but you're already looking for the next one. And we also are continuing to implement our strategic plan and plan towards that. We, to echo what Lauren and Chris said earlier, that the MTSS process is a major focus of the district. You will see that when we do our annual goal presentation at our next board meeting, that every department and every building, even the superintendent of schools office, has identified MTSS as a goal for next year. So we're already begin looking for that. And with the next slide, is there any question about topics that we presented that the board has? And before we go to the board questions, I'd like to thank our administrators, faculty, staff, all of our employees for their efforts on reopening. And Josh, thank you for Josh Hobson. Thank you for the opening on the video presentation. And for Carmen, once again, reminding me, people don't want to come to the board meeting if you're celebrating at this time.
We wanted to invite everybody, like the entire 100 people.
I just wanted to say that I felt like our building tours, everything looked amazing, honestly, and we can't thank everybody enough for all the hard work that I know they poured into that to make sure that it looked the way it did and made it feel the way it did for the first week of school. So, thank you.
I just wanted to echo that, and I even said it during the building tour. I know we always say it's a long night. This was my third time doing it, and I don't know if you recall, I even said that night, I felt that this was the best one. Like when we looked at the schools, I was really proud. Like Blue Mountain, the outside work that was done, like the signage, the garden, it just looked amazing. Furnace Woods, when you walked inside talking about those floors, we've seen the progression from the last couple of years where it was a little hallway, then expanded out to now it's almost the entire.
It was like
it's like almost the entire front part. The lighting, the change in the lighting. Like when you walked into the schools, it really felt welcoming. And I just want to thank facilities and all of the members who then identified those, and then facilities getting it done. It was really beautiful to see.
So if you think about a system, this is a school system for the community. This goes all the way back to our budget development discussions back in December of 2024, where we talked about allocating, as one of our budget goals, allocating additional funds for beautification, grounds and facilities, to have those budget funds because there was an expectation of wanting to see some improvements in that area. And commend Mr. Merlini and his staff for putting and Ms. Figueroa for putting those funds to good use.
Can I also shout out to our families in the community also who really got the hang of it in that very first week, the pickups, the drop-offs, the days off, everything. They really pulled it together very quickly this year, so I think it went really smoothly for almost everybody I spoke to.
Another part of our system, right? Families need to be informed, and they can choose to follow the requests and help it go smoothly, or we may have to adjust. And their feedback is still important, right? We're still refining our system. So
I was going to say too, just any staff or students or parents I've talked to have all just had positive things to say. Even the kids are all happy. The ones I've talked to.
And I know we were very apprehensive with some of the new policies that we had to put in place, but I feel like everything has been rolling out in a very positive way, and our students are resilient as well and able to rise to any challenge that we put forth in front of them.
Great. So Chloe and I prepared this. So we know that this board is dictated by the Robert's Rules of Order's parliamentary procedures, and Chloe had wanted to discuss a topic on lunch, and I think it's appropriate. In the bathrooms. I didn't know about bathrooms, but we'll go for it. So the way that you do this during a particular, and Chloe has her training tomorrow.
Yeah.
Her first training on board remote. You're doing it remote?
Period 3, yes.
Period 3.
With BOCES, right?
Yes.
With BOCES,
So
yes.
we're going to walk Chloe through this. So in terms of parliamentary procedure to be heard during a speaker's presentation, you would say this,
Point of information.
and then the chair can choose to recognize you.
Well, she said no.
So the chair may, so the chair can do a couple different things.
Just walk out.
That is, the chair can refuse to recognize.
Point of information.
Point of information.
Oh God, we can start talking like that?
Yes, so much fun. It's like a cool club. So you say point of information, and now you can ask me a question about any of these things, and we can go to that route.
Okay. Is it like a direct question?
You can be direct with me.
Or like, can I say like a statement?
Yes,
Is that
sure.
like- Okay, so I think that like one of like the biggest issues currently is the new meal plan which we're on. I've been speaking to a lot of my friends about it, and not just my friends. I wanted to bring it here first before finding out like if a survey or anything, or if a video could actually do anything. So if you all like take a look to your right at that box over there, those are for fruits. So basically, like, let's say you're me and you want to go in there and you want to go get food. It's free, so you could go and you could get a pizza. You have to get a fruit or a vegetable. It has to go on your plate. If you don't get a fruit or vegetable on your plate, you have to pay for lunch. So you have to pay for it. So literally every single one of my friends, every single kid in the cafeteria, there's probably 4 or 5 kids which would pick the vegetables on the old meal plan anyways. They would pick the vegetables, like, optionally. When you're being forced to pick the vegetables, Claire makes you take it, and you put it in the box, and we can't even donate the food to a thing. I was talking to Mr. Conceris today about, like, you're not allowed to donate the food anywhere, because, like, we've touched it and, like, the whole thing. So then it's just, like, tons and tons of apples, oranges, like, everything, and just going straight to the garbage, which is, like, really, really bad to see. Also, like, in terms of the new school plan, like the food plan, a lot of kids, what I've been picking up on are like, there's been way more demand for paninis. Like the paninis, like I'd say not, like I walk into my lunch, it'll take me about 25 minutes to get a panini if I want one, because every single kid is going to that. And like if you look, I'm sure, like, I don't have the data yet, so I want to bring it here before like I brought the data about it, but like if it's just really like, if it's a choice to either eat the school lunch or not eat anything, like there's just kids who are not eating. And I know the entire point of the meal was to like, or the plan was to like have nutritious lunch for everyone. But I think it's backfiring because the kids who would want vegetables anyways, so like I would want vegetables, and they weren't unhealthy meals either. They were home cooked meals by Claire, who's now retiring. They were home cooked, like she like made everything. And like she like really and now they're not like that at all. And she's moving on. That's why everyone's concerned. And I think that the main issue is like, it's a waste of food. It's required, and kids are not eating lunch. And I think that honestly it's probably backfiring because now there's options like if I go in there in the morning, it's like you could get freeze dried like or whatever freeze-able pancakes. I don't really understand how like that is better than if Claire were to make homemade bacon, egg, and cheese, which you could get last year for free in the first place, because there was some things that were free. So that's my first issue.
Yeah.
Do you have another one?
I have one more, yeah.
Okay.
My other issue is about the bathrooms. So
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Well-
Can I ask a question?
You have to say point of
Point of
interest.
Information.
Point of information.
See how cool that is?
Yes, girl.
just, I don't know if I need this, I'm taking loud enough. I know at the elementary schools, they've been sort of on this plan for some time, and I think that they handle it a little different than that box. And it's maybe like they're younger, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there for food for thought. So everybody gets a clementine that day or an apple or whatever it is, and if you don't want it, like you put it to like share with a friend, and it goes into a more appealing place.
yeah.
So that like, I know like my son's like, I wanted an extra apple, so I went and grabbed it, and like, you know, so-and-so told me like, yeah, totally take one. So I think that I would never walk over to a cardboard box if I was still hungry and be like, is everyone looking? So maybe that's not a great solution to where you put your fruits and vegetables that you don't want. Because while you might not be able to like give them away or repurpose it, I definitely think that there's kids who may like an extra piece of fruit or vegetables, but is definitely not gonna walk in front of all of their peers to that cardboard box and eat out of it. So, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I think it's also more of like a demand of like, it's, because I mean, obviously I was a student at Furnace Woods and then Blue Mountain, and like, it's very different in elementary and like middle school where it's like, now, like, and literally this was a discussion I had in peer leadership, so it's like, we had this discussion today with Mr. Gonzalez about how we're gonna bring an issue to the new principal about off-campus lunch, which we know it's, you know, I mean, we talked to him about it. Yeah, because Croton, Pleasantville, like Sleepy Hollow, all of them have off-campus lunch and we don't. And then, so now it's not that like we don't just have not off-campus lunch, but now we have like this. And so I think that it's as a collective whole, it's like people don't want to do it, and it sucks because it's like now you're not dealing with like 8, 9-year-old, 10-year-olds. You're dealing with like 14 through 18-year-olds who don't want this lunch. They don't want to eat it, and it's ultimately just wasting food. 1, 2 is like, for like example, like if I want another apple, I'm gonna be like, okay, Daniel, go grab me another apple. He'll go get me one. Like it's fine. But I think like usually it's like my friend, he just wants to get his pizza. He takes the apple, throws it in the garbage, which again is not good. But it's like in rebellion to like, we're seniors. I'm a straight A student. I want off-campus lunch. All the schools around have it, and like it's more of like I don't understand why we adopted this thing if it's actually like a waste of food. And that's like a popular, like I was told to bring to today, like a popular opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Point of information.
Need to share.
You're asking yourself.
I think I can feel like your apprehension to Claire leaving. Like I feel like as you're saying that, I also work in a school and I do supervisory where I see lunch, and I've been actually talking to the people that work there. And I think one of the things that when you guys are creating this data and looking, she's making home cooked meals. I don't think that it's not allowed for there to be home cooked meals as long as they're following the regulations. One of the things that maybe you guys can look for is who is preparing the food. Are they chefs? Are they making things that we like? And those might be pieces of information that you bring back to your team, the students, and kind of see maybe having more of what, like when you're creating those surveys and everything, to bring back, like what are some things that we do like, because if we do have to keep this or we're not able to do other things, I'm not saying we are or that we can't, but in the case that we can't, how do we tailor it to be more of what you guys want?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think Claire's great and everything, and I think that she really just like cares about all the students. Like she knows me by first name. She knows the other hundreds of kids in our building by first name. So her leaving is like, oh, like that's like a point in itself. But I think also it's more of like the fact of like, okay, like I'm 17, I can say this is what the student body wants, but like in terms of like actually like we signed up for this. I know I was getting explained to today by Conceris, like we put in, we're getting money or something like from it. Like would we ever be able to even like go off of it? Like how, is that even like an argument, or is this just like not like?
Sure, so great questions. I appreciate you bringing forward the concerns of some of your fellow students. So we knew that this change was, when this was brought to us at the beginning of, in June, we knew that this change was going to bring some struggles, some flexibility, some misunderstandings, some challenges to overcome together. And that's why it's important to have your voice here. We did hold a number of town hall meetings explaining why we had to make this change, some of the concerns that we were aware of, but also that this is going to be a year where we need to do a lot of listening and responding. So We know that we are going to be putting out a survey for students. I will be eating lunch in your cafeteria at least monthly.
Oh,
So-
yeah, I have a meeting, I was invited for lunch with the principal tomorrow.
Okay. I hope somebody sits next to me, but I'm okay if not. But you're doing all the things that we're asking you to do, is to use your voice through student government. We met with student government before school opened up. They shared, hey, we've polled people so far. It's the start of the school year, so we don't necessarily know until we see the lunch that's there what it's going to be like. There is some flexibility within the program to be responsive to student needs, and I think that's the
There
point
is,
we're at
I
right now.
say, yeah, my best friend is the president of he's like one of my closest friends. He's the president of student government, so we're thinking like, if we were to come together and be like, this is like a real issue, and like, would there even be like a loud change or not really?
So,
Because they were, but that's the thing, like they were free. Like they were free, and like also it's like seeing the paninis, which panini is not healthy for you. Like no, like it's like literally yesterday I picked up, it's like frozen pancakes. Like that's the new thing that they have, which subbed out like we have no real chips, no real nothing like that. They have like 0 calories, 0 is like water with like flavoring in it, and it's like one, they're not going off like the shelves, no one's getting them, and the panini line is crazy. I guarantee if you like were to ask like the 2 people who work there, and they're like always so friendly, like they're just throwing it on, like and they raised the prices. It's now $6. It used to be lower last year, so it was just I think that it's backfiring a little bit because one there's the point of, okay, we're seniors, and like my peer leadership is currently arguing for off-campus for peer leaders only as a test. We're meeting with the principal. And then the second thing is, like, just like the fact that it's like, you see the underclassmen, like my sister's an underclassman, like I've been talking to like them, they're like obviously upset because it's like the difference between the middle school and the high school. And so I just think that it's like, but from an adult perspective, it's like, there is food being wasted.
So we definitely knew that would be a component, and we wanted to measure that. So we did buy scales.
Yes, we do.
So we will be tracking the amount of food waste. That's going to be a very vague data point because we're not going to be sorting through the food. I'm not asking anybody to do that, and we don't have anything to compare it to. We do know that a component of the program is that you have to offer and take, students have to take all the components of what the federal government and state then therefore sees as what they consider a balanced meal. And so there are some changes that we know we need to adapt to, and that's where the student voice comes in. While we may not be able to back out of the program because it's a year commitment at this point in time.
So that, yeah, but that's the question. It's a
And many of the districts that you were referencing, they've made similar changes where they were not in the program, and they've ended up changing to that as well
Yeah.
too. So this is, many districts are learning. The one that matters obviously is ours. So we'll be sure to enlist your voices going forward to see how we might, even small tweaks such as you want a cardboard box, or is there a better way to solve this? But perhaps it's adjusting. Maybe we need to provide more targeted resources to the panini station if that's where we see people. And that's
Formation of the wellness committee is beginning this year, or getting back in order this year. It hasn't been, they haven't really been active. That is something that we're going to be instituting in order for student participation, parent participation, other colleagues in the district to participate in a wellness committee so that we can understand what the concerns are, get feedback, and possibly make changes to menus, see what options there are. Unfortunately, Claire is leaving us, and you're not going to have maybe that same face to present options to, but we certainly will find the right candidate for that position so that we can work with them to try and make those meals as appetizing as possible. The components of the meal require certain ingredients,
Yeah.
and
No, I
that's
understand
really
that.
what
Yeah.
is impacting the food. And we want to find ways, because other districts do run these programs, and I think the change is what is difficult to take. and to understand what we can incorporate into those meals to make them taste the best we can is what students have to understand. We need to get there. We're not there. Maybe those flavors haven't been discovered yet, but we need to work on that. And your feedback is the most important part of, not just you personally, but your whole student body is it's really important for that to be communicated back to the district, because we can help make those changes.
Bathrooms.
Oh, yeah, so this is like my other issue. Like recently, as of this year, we decided that we're gonna do bathroom passes, which is like the newest thing ever. So like if I have to go to the bathroom, like,
Securely?
and there's a, what?
Securely?
Hmm?
Are you using securely?
No, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why not?
No, but like, so it's like, there's a boy in my class and he's in the bathroom. I have to wait. I have to like wait until like whatever, so that's like the first, but that's like whatever. So basically you have to take a pass and you go to a bathroom. So like I'll be in a class that's in the basement and I have to go up, take a 5-minute walk to the only girls' bathroom that's open. And I understand that's because of the vaping. Like we were literally talking about it today with Mr. Canzares. He was our guest speaker in our peer leadership class, so I was very influenced for this meeting. But I just think that like obviously the vaping in our school it's a big problem. But I think that limiting all the bathrooms is not helping, because now you just have all the same kids who, guess what, they're gonna vape anyways. They put it on them, you cannot search them, it's on their body. They go into the bathrooms, then you have the underclassmen who are, they're 13 years old, they're going in and it's just bathrooms full of kids who are vaping. Like, and it's just now it's one hot box, it's now that's where they all go because there's only one thing. I remember being a freshman being so scared of like the kids who would vape that I wouldn't use the bathroom all day. But now, it's, if you have to go to the bathroom, we have two bathrooms open. We have this one and that one. When in reality, the English wing bathroom has not been opened in a year or 2 years. And then the basement bathroom hasn't been opened ever, like for 2 years too. Which I just think it's so frustrating because like, again, it's like 95% of the kids are not vaping. And the ones that are vaping, it's not like one, we're giving them like help to like, if you get caught vaping, what, they take it from you and then the kid goes home, buys a new vape, gets suspended, gets a new vape, comes back and does it again the next week, but we still only have one bathroom open. So it's taking so much longer to go. And for kids who may not be ready, like I'm 17, like I walk into the vape, like I don't even care. Like and when I tell you, I walk into the bathroom and every single time I walk into the bathroom, there is a kid vaping. I'm not making up that statistic. So it's like every single time. I just think it's an issue that it's like, it's jeopardizing every other kid in the building by only opening 2 bathrooms. Because like even with the security guy who sits outside the bathroom, a male security guy cannot do anything about the girls vaping in the bathroom. And then if even what's her name comes into the bathroom, the one woman security girl, they just put it on them and she can't search them anyways. Like so it's like it's more of like how do we approach vaping as it is, and then also why are all of our bathrooms like closed?
So you're bringing up excellent points, and it seems as if your peer leadership is having those conversations with your building administrators, like Mr. Katsaris and
Yeah.
the principals. So the best approach, and we can follow up definitely with your building principal, is to make sure that this is a topic of student government and of concern that your principal hears. And we will work to see what resources we can provide them. I do know that there is a little bit more to when a student is in the process of being addressed for vaping behavior. There's counseling that is offered. There's a little bit of education that we do provide. So we'll definitely circle back with your building administration to make sure that they know that this is a topic of conversation that they need to engage in. So thank you. Any other questions regarding reopening? Okay, that is my report on reopening. We do have an abridged cabinet report or update this evening. Ms. Figueroa was going to give an update on food service. I think we've
Kind of already covered
done
that.
that. And so I'll turn it over to Ms. Joy if you have anything to briefly update the community on.
Hello. So as I was sitting here looking at my notes, and I wanted to start by saying it's nice to see that I always say technology supports curriculum and instruction. So a lot of the things that Chris and Lauren shared today, so I'll piggyback on some of those things, how technology integrates into that. So definitely HMH and Eureka has definitely upgraded their platforms, and a lot of back-end changes has happened. So Nikki Fischetti, our instructional technology coach, has been working very closely with the teachers like Danielle, and also with our data team in solving some of those issues. So kudos to both of them to naturally working together with teachers, with the instructional coach, going into classrooms with the teachers to help them with a lot of the HMH issues. Also working with our data team and hoping to resolve, not everything is resolved yet, but hoping to resolve some of those issues. We also had a grade level meeting today with the leaders. So I was able to hear from them about some of the issues that we are having with, because we transitioned ESGI, which is a platform that we use for K-1 benchmarking, into Linkit. So teachers were saying some of the feedback that they would like to have for the next benchmark. So we're already working with the vendors and making some of those changes in the system, so it acts and behaves like the old system. Also at the beginning of the school year this year, for the first time, every year teachers always have to go into like spring iReady assessments, they have to go into New York State assessment results, they have to go into FNP, we don't use that anymore, but for all of those scores, they were stored in so many different platforms. So now that we have Linkit, every teacher was able to get a student fingerprint report, we call it. It's a one-pager that basically shows all their data from last year up to spring and any New York State assessments from this year. So teachers were, I believe, very appreciative so that they don't have to go hunting for all of those scores in different parts of the systems. Also, we talked about the parent reports for 3 to 5. It's the ELA Math, Science 5th grade, and also NYSIS Lat was loaded to Backpack. One of the things that Lauren actually pointed out today is we also had to have every parent submit a New York State digital equity survey, which you guys have done in the past. That's a requirement from New York State, which is coming out through the parent portal. So you have to now complete that. That's a requirement. You have to complete that. So if you're looking at your parent reports in the backpack, you have to complete that to get to the backpack. So just pointed that out earlier.
Thank you.
So we also had a new platform that we sent out emails on. It's SWAN K-12 streaming. We had a copyright policy that was adopted back in June. We also put a new filtering system. You probably heard me talk about that, about testing the new filtering system. We've transitioned away from Fortinet filtering to Lightspeed filtering. So part of that filtering, we had to go through and really categorize everything that needed to be filtered in this district. One of the things we were not filtering was streaming platforms. So a lot of our teachers were using, and that was probably the #1 tickets that I got this year, and I know teachers are not happy, but a lot of teachers were using Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Spotify, all of these platforms. So when I blocked the streaming on the Lightspeed side, yes, it affected that platform for the teachers. So we had already talked about this multiple times in the Technology Advisory Committee last year about launching SWAN K-12 streaming. So that is out there. Teachers have all of those video platforms within the platform. They can also request up to 300 videos if they're not part of that movie set that's already part of the package. They can request it. So those requests are definitely coming in. We are approving them as we go. The one thing is we don't have a streaming platform for music. So Nikki has been working with definitely the elementary school about using YouTube for kids. So it is, it's not, it's not ads and things like that. So it's more kid friendly. So some of the teachers are starting to use that. So there's more to come on how we're going to solve that issue. So definitely almost on a daily basis, I get an email from a teacher about, can I use my Spotify? Can I use my, Netflix account? The last thing is we just started the mid-transition. So we had faced that EduTech and we moved to managed IT through the Lyric. We've been meeting regularly with the team because we're constantly updating their playbook, because this is where they have to learn how we do things in the district. So sometimes when they're rejecting tickets and back to the district team, we're like, no, you need to handle this. This is what you guys are there for. So we had a couple of meetings this week specific on tickets, on what they need to do, at least the first level of support before they push that back to the district. So they are very adaptive to that, so they are learning as we go. So that process is going pretty good at this time. So that's all I have for you from technology.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. And that concludes. There are no questions for follow-up at this time. I'll tell my children to go to bed, and there are no. That concludes the superintendent and cabinet update.
Okay, that brings us to board comments and new business, and we do have another presentation for our discussion.
Yes. Greg, I'll ask you to pull up the presentation on HHCSD tutoring rate of pay, and we can skip right to the objectives. Getting feedback on the presentation.
I did recommend him that the yellow is.
Well, thank God.
I told him that before. Reverse, right? Reverse. Okay.
We'll get there.
The MTSS
Become a superintendent, they
presentation
say,
is
you
great.
can make all these decisions.
Like font colors.
The purpose of this brief discussion, it was brought to our attention this spring, and we as a board decided to discuss this to talk about the rate of pay that we provide for tutoring. So this discussion will take us through that. In terms of the purpose behind tutoring functions within the district, that will be on the next slide. What we see here is there are a couple reasons why the district provides tutoring. One of them is for homebound instruction, and another is for hospitalization. Both of these are instances where a student, due to a medical reason or a physical event, cannot attend the school as determined by a licensed medical professional. And then the district is obligated to provide the tutoring for that student until they are able to return to the school district. Additionally, if a student is suspended from mandatory attendance and instruction, the school district has a mandated responsibility to provide a certain number of instructional hours per week to that student while they are serving out that instruction. So those are the main functions within the school district that we would look to provide tutoring services. If we turn to the next slide, the current rate of pay is authorized in a couple of different areas. First, there is in the teacher's contract if they provide tutoring services. And they do have the right of first refusal for most tutoring opportunities within the district, meaning that if there is a need for tutoring and we reach out and we post, the teacher's contract does give them the right to either take that opportunity or refuse it. There is a board policy around when our teachers can tutor. They can't tutor their own student. It has to be outside of the school hours, those types of things. So if it is not picked up by an HHEA member, we then have a couple different options. The board annually can enter into contract with certain organizations. We do have a few contracted companies that we partner with. And the board also authorizes, which is the purpose of the discussion tonight, opportunity for outside tutors, they are paid an hourly rate. And that currently hourly rate is $51 per hour. And we've been asked to take a look at that. And the question before the board this evening will be, is this something we want to keep in terms of the current rate of pay? Do we want to consider it, but we need more information, or do we want to make a recommendation to change that? And it would require the board updating a resolution to change that rate of pay. If we go to the next slide and we click on the regional data, if you take that $51 per hour, this compares, we've anonymized, we asked regional districts, our partners, to submit whether it be their teacher contract rate of pay or if they have an outside rate of pay for non-teacher members, what do they pay? So we just changed the district names. There is no A doesn't mean it's Arlington or anything such as that. It's just a randomized, rate of pay. So if we look at our $51 an hour, per hour, I'm sorry, the median average is approximately 51 and change for the district. I'm sorry, that's the average. The median is about $53.96 per hour within the region. The mode meaning for the math teachers, meaning which is the most frequent, is about $60 per hour. So we see a range of $30 per hour to $75 per hour. Our current rate of $51 per hour is slightly below the median. Slightly below the mean. It's below the median, and it's definitely below the mode. It puts us at about the lower half of the regional distribution. And so what we consider the distribution, you have about $30 to $52 an hour, which includes Henry-Hudson would be the lower distribution band. The upper distribution band would be $55 to $75 an hour, with most districts clustering near $60 per hour, and that is the most common rate. So the question before the board on the next slide. Thank you, Greg. As he's queued up, the question before the board is this something that we want to explore changing? Do we want to continue exploring this, look at additional data if needed, or do we want to table and we're happy with the $51 per hour?
I guess I would need a little bit more information, like what's the total dollar amount that was spent for last year when it comes to that amount, right? We would need to know what the magnitude is going to be if we say we want to change it from $51 to something else. We're also in the middle of contract negotiations, I'm sure, which are going to start, so that's also going to direct that conversation as well. So I think for me personally, I would just need a little bit more information before I can say I want to go in either way or either direction.
We will definitely get that information. One thing to keep in mind as a business rule is that tutoring can vary from year to year based upon need, depending upon the number of suspensions, the number of homebound students, the number of hospitalized students, but we can definitely get you that. Perhaps maybe, Jill, a 3-year average.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna try to get that information for you now, but I don't know if I can log on. So.
Absolutely.
What was I gonna say? Oh, are we struggling to find people? Like, would a better rate of pay bring us better talented tutors? Like, is there a need? I don't know what is the need?
I would say that's variable. It depends on the time of the year, as Mike referenced as well. It depends on the number of suspensions, students are hospitalized. There have been periods over the course of the last couple of years where there has been a challenge in finding tutors. I also caution though that also has to do with sometimes conflicts with the student, scheduling, personality conflicts, things like that. So there's a number of factors that play into that. Maybe some of the challenges at times finding tutors.
A question on the numbers that we got from the other districts. So we have two numbers. We have our HHEA and we have non-HHEA. The numbers that we're getting are other districts offering separate pay for teachers first, or like district employees first, non? Or are those numbers like an average of what they're paying? Or is it the same rate regardless of who is there?
So if they did have a separate rate, they would have indicated that in their response.
So we're the only district that's paying 2 separate rates?
As far as submitted data, yes. Whenever we do these types of surveys, you have to sometimes understand that they may answer with the quickest response that they have. So,
Right, not everybody responds to them. In my experience in another district, we had outside vendors who provided tutoring, as well as contractual obligation for teachers who did accept those jobs as well, just like here, but there was a rate set in the contract. But the outside vendors that we had, we actually did an RFP for because we had to provide a number of tutoring services for a number of students, so once it reaches a certain dollar amount, you have to put that out there. If you don't get to that dollar amount, you can just adopt a rate, just like we have substitute rates for teachers, and so the going rate, let's say, so we would have to maybe survey other districts to find out what they've been paying vendors for that rate.
I have a comment. Are some of those prices though, rates for other years though?
I think it's just 2024.
yeah, we asked them for most recent data.
Okay, because here,
So that may be the last time they went out for
Okay.
an RFP for services.
that's why
so-
like some of them are in the 30s though, but that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, and maybe their need isn't the same either, or they
Yeah.
have another resource, so it's hard to tell unless you have a conversation with each and every one of them.
Yeah, and then just as someone who uses tutors for my kids, like the rate is about $65 to $80 per hour, which
For
stings.
private tutors.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's who we're using, it's just a company, like who do we use when it's not an HH?
Great question. So we use individuals who have applied in the past and who continue to say their services are available. So if we had a need, we could always put out a posting for additional tutors. But it's been a pretty strong group of individuals who have agreed to year do that.
From the contractors or the independent contractor standpoint, if you're looking at 2 jobs that are comparable and one pays $10 an hour more, that's typically the one you're going to take. So if you're looking at somebody who's a really good tutor and they're putting their application out to multiple districts, they're going to take the job typically that is going to give them the highest rate of pay. So there's a potential to be losing talent to districts that do have higher rates of pay because we are coming in underneath. So just from a talent perspective, we might want to consider joining with some of our neighboring districts in raising our rates so that we don't lose out on that talent, especially if we do have a need for more tutors who aren't already district teachers.
And just the context behind this discussion, did not come out of a concern that we didn't have the tutors that we needed. It was a community member concern who brought this up and shared that perhaps the board would engage in discussion, and it did make the agenda.
We want to be a district that people want to send their kids to and that teachers want to teach in and administrators want to work in. We want to become a desirable district, and I think this is one of those ways that listening to the community and responding affirmatively is an easy way to do that, as long as it's within our budget constraints, obviously, but we want to make sure that we attract the best talent possible because that's also one of our goals, district goals.
So some things to consider. If I'm hearing the board needs more information, we need some average data on the spend amount.
I would actually ask for a recommendation, just
Sure. So
after you take a look at their budget, see what we can afford, come back maybe to the board and say, this is what we recommend, bumping up $5, bumping up $10, whatever it is.
so I did come prepared with recommendations.
Yeah,
Sure.
go for it.
If budget concerns exist, you could increase to $55 and bring us closer to the regional average and median, demonstrating a desire to provide more funding, but also managing costs. If you increase to the $60 to $65 range, that would put us along the mode, so the most frequent amount that's offered at the $60 range, and it could be considered making us more attractive and a fair compensation that supports student achievement while remaining mindful of budget constraints. So I think a small increase gets us to a close regional comparison, and it definitely is not a major budget driver.
No, and
but
the
it can only-
tutoring rate, I mean, you know, if you make a tutoring rate, it can be updated and changed at any
Yeah.
point in time
So if we
throughout the
see
year,
it.
throughout any time. It's not like we have to establish it today and that's the end of the story.
That was gonna be
Listen.
part of my question was, like, let's say, we did a smaller increase, right? Not going all the way to there. Could we then get to see how it's impacting our budget? Can we get an update on that, like,
Right,
throughout,
it all
and then-
depends on the need, the
Well, I know,
use, and
it's
so
like,
forth.
anything could happen. We could have nobody who's on
Right.
home tutoring for a month or two, like, knock on wood, and then you could have a few
Right.
things happen, but like, could we see if it's impacting, and then come back to a conversation and see if we want to go higher? I don't know how the rest of the board
Yeah, I
feels
think,
on
I
that.
think more information is good, right? If we can understand what the overall, like even that 3-year look of what it's been, just so we have some sort of point of reference for it would be good for us.
Right, I
Any
think, you
information
know, it
to
also
speak-
depends what we've been putting through payroll and what we've
Yeah.
been paying outside of payroll, so I have to really look at that and analyze it. Yeah.
Right, so we'll bring back that data and
Yep.
share with the board.
Everybody feel okay with that? Okay.
Keep going. More and.
Did you have anything else to add on that?
That is, thank you for your time and discussion on that.
Thank you. We are moving on to policies, so just bear with us. We have a few second readings and a few first readings tonight. So we are starting with a second reading of policy 4324, multi-tiered system of support, MTSS. In accordance with regulations of the Commission of
Motion
Education.
to waive the reading?
Second.
All in favor?
So this policy, this is the second reading. We did the first reading over the summer. And we brought it back because we were waiting to just get the presentation, which we looked at today. And it just outlines everything that was in the presentation that our district is gonna be doing moving forward.
And we changed the number, at the last meeting, you guys
Oh,
wanted
right,
the number
the
to change.
percentage. Yeah.
The number's now in the 4,000s.
Yep.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions or comments or any follow-up after seeing the presentation on this one?
I would like to make a motion to approve policy 4324, multi-tiered system of support.
Second.
All in favor? So that moves us to the second reading of policy 5155, admission of international students. The board recognizes the cultural enrichment.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second.
All in favor?
This policy is just basically our process and procedure in the district as to how we would do the admissions for international students. And this is the second reading.
Reading through, does anybody have any questions or comments on this?
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 5155, admission of international students.
Second.
All in favor? So I'm a paper gal, so just don't mind me flipping. Okay, now we're moving on to first reading of policy 2120.1, candidate and campaigning. Candidates for the office of member of the board
Motion
of...
to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
This policy is basically how the district would handle any petitions that withdraw during the election season. And then we have this happen earlier this year during our season, and it just outlines what we would do in the district to follow the laws to make sure that we're compliant.
Yeah, and it just made the wording a little more clear, because I know when we were reading it, when we were in our policy meeting, even I was questioning, like, well, what do you mean by this day? And we were looking at a calendar and trying to go through. So this hopefully clarifies the dates and the timing of everything, because we, like I said, we're sitting there with poor Corming. I'm so sorry that day. I was like, but count back this many days, where are we? So hopefully it clears up some of that information. And this is a first reading, so we will be bringing that back. Does anybody have any questions on it after looking at it? Okay. So then we're looking at policy 4321.07, district-wide and statewide assessment of students with disabilities. The Board of Education recognizes the
Motion to
importance.
waive the reading?
Second.
All in favor?
This policy just basically states what the board will do in the recruitment, hiring, training, and just retaining of special education personnel.
Anybody have any questions or comments while we have our,
Wait, I think we're off. Yeah, this is district-wide and statewide assessment?
district-wide and statewide
Oops,
assessment?
sorry guys, I skipped one. This policy would ensure the district is providing testing accommodations for all eligible students with disabilities. Sorry, I skipped one. Looking over my pages here.
Anybody have any questions while we have Mr. Moreno here who can
And
clarify?
this is a required policy.
Yes. And of course, Mr. Moreno, you read through all of these prior to us approving them, correct? Just want to put that out there so everyone knows.
And the attorney.
That's why, yes, unfortunately, that is why you have to stick around in case we have any questions for you.
My pleasure.
Anybody else have any questions for that one? Okay. Well, you will bring that one back for the next meeting as well. Policy first reading, policy 4321.14, special education personnel. The board acknowledges
Motion
its,
to waive the reading?
Second.
all in favor?
This policy just outlines our responsibility to recruit, hire, and train qualified personnel.
And this is also required. Anybody have any questions? Okay, this one will be coming back as well to our next meeting. We have another first reading of policy 4326, programs for English language learners. The Board of Education believes that students
Motion to
who,
waive the reading?
Second.
all in favor?
This policy just outlines that the district must identify, screen, and support our bilingual and email programs, and just also make sure that they're communicating with the parents, and proper certifications are in place as well.
I can see there was an update too, because the last time this was done was in 2015, so there's new testing, so the nicest slide is on there as well.
Additionally, just for the board's edification, in addition to this policy, the district must submit yearly an attestation and a detailed plan as to how we provide instruction to English language learners within state regulations. And that is reviewed by the state, and it is, they look at specifically what this policy outlines, but in the details of how we actually carry it out. So just so you know, there is that oversight there as well too.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. We will be bringing that one back. First reading of policy, or of the revision of policy 5152, admission and enrollment of non-resident students. The Board of Education affirms its
Motion to
primary.
waive the reading?
Second.
All in favor?
This policy just outlines the requirements, I guess, of the tuition fees for non-resident students that can be enrolled in our schools.
And again, this was last updated in 2006 when it was adopted. So you're going to notice there are, at the beginning, we changed quite a bit just to make it more inclusive and just more in detail of tuition rates. It almost, I like the subcategories here because it's very clear and easy to see what we're doing. Yes.
And we had a good discussion in the policy meeting too about changing the date so that students would have all of their days that they are required in order to get credit for their testing at the high school level. So we did change the dates for residency transitions to January 30th to make sure that those students would get full credit.
Thank you.
Did I say that right?
Sounded good.
Does anybody have questions or comments on policy 5152? They will be bringing that one back as well. And we have another policy reading first reading on policy 4531, field trips and excursions. The Board of Education encourages the use.
Second.
All in favor?
This policy basically just summarizes field trips that helped instruction with safety-focused approvals. This policy establishes the regulations and procedures that need to be followed for all of those.
And again, this was adopted in 2005. Oh, yeah, 2005, yeah, that's just an extra 2 there. So there were some updates, as you can see here, that has then transportation included as well, and gets into a little bit more detail.
Is this also a state-regulated one, or is this mandated?
This
or-
is
State
Doesn't say,
there.
right?
I saw that. I was just,
well,
I have to
it
go
is
look and
grounded
see if
in
it was, if
education
it's shown
law.
there. I'll go for the next meeting, look and see. I don't know if it's required. It probably is.
I'm just curious.
We'll put it in.
And it just kind of clarifies again with the transportation and the medications, which is really important to know when you are on a field trip, because it's usually sometimes another adult going with them that would need to know all of this information. So anybody have any questions or comments on policy 4531?
I have a quick question. I'm assuming now that since this is our first reading, like all of our other field trips have just been governed by the old policy this whole time, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. This will be coming back again for a next meeting, so if you guys notice anything between now and then, please let the policy committee know, and if anybody at home has any questions or comments, please send them in so that we can make any appropriate changes. Okay, committee reports. Anybody have any committee reports since our last meeting? Yeah, that was policy.
Yeah.
Safety committee, district-wide safety committee meets this Thursday.
So does the audit.
The audit committee does also.
I say like
Safety and audit.
Audit, yeah.
facilities with our building tour for the most part. We will be updating that, but
We were on the PTA calls. I was on for high school and we were on for elementary too.
she knows did a great job. So great.
PTAs are working
Sure.
hard.
Yes.
What is the next facilities meeting?
I don't have the
I
date.
don't think we had it.
Thank you to the PTAs.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome.
I don't think it was on the calendar.
I can see if there's anything on the calendar, but, I'll check with Mr. Marini
Okay, we'll
tomorrow.
make sure you get a date for that.
Cool.
I'll write that down, Joe.
Oh, and I had the first delegate meeting for the NISBA advocacy platform for this year. And then we'll present the resolutions at the September 30th board meeting, so we can discuss those. But it was extremely informative.
Thank you. How long was that phone call?
A little over 2 hours.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, it was really, really informative, and a lot of people had some really great feedback, so I was actually really glad to be involved, because I feel like I learned a lot. It's absorb.
Just a reminder to the board while at a committee meeting, I have been able to secure a meeting with Congressman Michael Lawler this Friday in Washington we'll be touching base about some requests for advocacy for increased federal funding at our level for Hendrick Hudson.
Anybody have anything else? Chloe, we're good? All right. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?